Or you do. Which that were we doing?
Let's call the Monday, March 15th, 2021 meeting of the Dalton City Council to order. Mr. Wall will lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda is before y'all. Are there any changes, additions, deletions? If not,
Motion we approve.
motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second? Second by Mr. Wall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Next is the time on the agenda we allow for the public to comment on anything that's on the agenda or anything else in the city of Dalton on your mind. We've got two people, I think. Is it Danielle Bryson? Yep.
thank you for allowing the time for me to make a comment and ask a few questions. I'm interested in ordinance number 21-02, the franchise fee for energy. Now, I have read it, and to me it appears that the plans are for the city to charge North Georgia Electric and Georgia Power 4% of the amount paid to them by each customer living within the city limits. Now, I'm sure the council is aware that in those situations that those fees are passed on to the customers. So this is essentially, for all practical purposes, this is a tax on the citizens of the city. So I've got a few questions. Number one, how much revenue does the city of Dalton expect to bring in? How much does your analysis show that you will bring in from this fee or tax in a year? Number two, my interpretation of the way the ordinance.
You want us to answer the question one at a time?
They're all related, so
Okay.
I'll run through
I think it'd be easier if we just answer those some of them. The
Okay.
first one.
That's
The
fine.
first one, the only way
Sure.
we have to know on the estimate on the revenue is from the carriers themselves. EMC has told us they think it's about $78,000 a year. Yet Georgia Power has not given us an estimate.
Okay. Then related to that, my interpretation of the ordinance is that these funds are intended to cover maintenance on the right-of-ways. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now, then how much did the city spend in the past year on that work that this is supposed to cover?
I wouldn't have. Andrew Parker may know what that is. Andrew, there you are. Do you have any idea?
That is somewhat difficult to quantify. We hope to, in the future, start a right-of-way encroachment and permitting process so we can track that better. But we do have expenses rectifying certain issues in the right-of-way caused by utility providers, whether that be a trench in the pavement or a pole that has to be replaced or work around the pole. There are costs associated with maintaining those issues in the right-of-way, but we don't have a great handle on it today.
Okay, then based on that, I would love to know why the amount of 4% was chosen if you don't have an exact idea of how much you need to do that.
It's
and
the
what
state law.
happens.
It's the state law.
The state law requires that if there's going to be a fee, it has to be exactly 4%.
It can be 4% or less, I would think. Terry, is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
That's the maximum we can charge.
you went straight to the maximum
Yes.
without knowing how much you're going to need. With respect, that doesn't.
Well, I think
sound
it's
like
easier
the way
to,
to do it.
I think it's easier to explain this way. Dalton Utilities, which we own, obviously, has a 5% transfer payment fee, which in effect is a franchise fee. And at least while I've been mayor, all the money that comes in such as that, we don't spend it on other things. We cut the property taxes with it. This puts all the utilities on the same level playing field as far as what the franchise fee is, level as we can be. Franchise fee is. And as every year that I've been the mayor the first year this time, we've cut the property taxes every year since I've been mayor. We're now down to about, on a 40% equivalency to be able to equate it to the county, we've gone from 9.1 mils down to 5.4 mils. And this year we'll cut it another 10%.
So if I'm understanding you right, this money from this franchise fee or tax will be going in order to be thrown in the pool to be able to reduce property
Exactly.
taxes?
Exactly.
I did not get that at all from the ordinance. It doesn't sound like there's anything in the ordinance that would legally require it to be.
There's nothing in the ordinance that would legally require us to.
All right, I'll let somebody else talk about this topic. Thank you.
Ben?
Mr. Mayor, councilpersons, my name is Ben Lauder. I live at 4004 Millstone Circle out in Rocky Face. I'd like to start with just some of the facts as I understand them. I always like to set sort of a context for my comments in a minute. In 1974, by agreement, Georgia Power, North Georgia EMC, and Dalton Utilities decided which utility would service which part of Whitfield County. Dalton Utilities got the city of Dalton, North Georgia EMC got part of Whitfield County where I live. In about 1986, the area of Whitfield County where I live was annexed into the city of Dalton. In 1993, Lynn and I built our house. We have North Georgia EMC electric power, Dalton Utilities water and sewer, and Spectrum internet and cable service. In 1994, litigation in Gordon County established that a municipality could require a utility to collect a gross receipts tax from its customers. The city of Dalton required Dalton Utilities, which you acknowledge is wholly owned by the city of Dalton, to impose a 5% tax on its customers to be paid by the city of Dalton to be used only for capital expenditures. Initially, the 5% tax was a separate line item on the electric bill. Then at the demand of the then mayor of Dalton, Dalton Utilities eliminated the tax line item and included the 5% in the regular charges on the billings to hide the fact that a tax was being collected. Initially, the 5% tax was capped at $5 million. The tax was to be used by the city of Dalton only for capital projects. Subsequently, the requirement to use the 5% tax only for capital projects was eliminated by the city council. Subsequently, in stages, the cap of $5 million was raised to the larger of $10.5 million, or 5% of Dalton Utilities' gross revenue. Last year, the gross receipts paid by Dalton Utilities to the city of Dalton was $11.6 million. That's about 1/3 of the city of Dalton's budget. Now the city of Dalton proposes to force North Georgia EMC customers who also happen to live in the city of Dalton to pay a 4% franchise tax, which will eventually add to the city of Dalton's revenues. The city of Dalton calls it a franchise fee. North Georgia EMC, in its mailing to its customers, calls it a franchise tax. North Georgia EMC reports that it serves 135 commercial customers and 840 residential customers who live inside the city limits. By my rough calculations, the 4% franchise tax will generate about $100,000 annually from just the residential customers and about $1.5 million annually from the commercial customers. Bottom line is the city of Dalton will add about $1.5 million annually to its operating budget from the franchise tax on North Georgia EMC customers. I have no idea what Georgia Power customers will pay on franchise taxes. City Council likes, now I'm off the facts, I'm into comments, okay? City Council likes to boast how much it has cut property taxes, and that's all well and good. City of Dalton depends on Dalton Utilities for a major portion of its income. The money from Dalton Utilities is a franchise tax, not a property tax. The city of Dalton is now seeking a new revenue stream by adding a new franchise tax onto North Georgia EMC customers' bills. Do you see the disconnect? The city council has reduced property taxes by replacing property taxes with a gross receipts tax on utility bills. Councilman Cruz is quoted in the local newspaper saying, "This is only fair since other Dalton Utilities customers are already paying a franchise fee." It is not a fee, it is a tax. What would be fair would be for the city council to own up to the fact that it is raising taxes. If the city council now votes to reduce property tax collections by $1.6 million, you have done nothing for the citizens of Dalton. Just call it what it is. In accordance with the 1994 Gordon County litigation, it is a new gross receipts tax. As my poor old gray-head daddy would say, if it looks like a duck, if it swims like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Well, from my standpoint, I can't speak for everybody else up here. If indeed it brings that up amount of money, we can cut the property taxes a whole lot more. And it's, as far as I'm concerned, we'll cut them by that amount if that's true. I'm not sure where we got that number before of $78,000. But if it's 1.6 million, that's how much more the property taxes will be reduced again this year. I think property taxes are probably the most difficult tax there is for anybody, because you got to pay it whether you made any money or not. You at least have some control over your electric bills or whatever, as far as by how much electricity you use. You have no control over the property taxes.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak. Mr. Lara, the reason I mentioned a franchise fee is because that's what I was referred to it as from GMA in previous conversation. But I will agree it's as much of a tax or a fee as money coming out. So I will clarify that. I've just always heard it referred to as a franchise fee.
I'm not in the law. How that was the state law classified, Terry?
Well, they're talking about a case called the City of Calhoun versus North Georgia Electric Membership Corporation that tracks the statute of Georgia Supreme Court decision in the 1990s, I believe. And it refers to it as a, in fact, I'm quoting, obtain a street franchise and pay a franchise fee as a condition of the grant. I think the majority opinion, including the concurring opinion of former Justice Fletcher, does refer to it as franchise fees. I don't know. It is a revenue raising measure.
Yeah.
Anybody would argue otherwise, but it is, there's plenty of ground.
Yeah. Fee or tax, it makes no difference to me. It's definitely yeah. Yeah.
I think Terry's referring to the second part of the litigation. There were actually two cases down in Gordon County, and in the first case, it very specifically calls it a gross receipts tax.
That's probably fair, because I mean, Dalton Utilities, that's what it is, without a doubt. But as I said, I know every year that I've been the mayor, we've cut taxes, not done rollback rates, things like that. We've cut the taxes. We plan on doing it the next 3 years also. We'll certainly do it again this year. If it brings in that amount of money, that's how much more the property taxes we can cut going forward. The minutes are before you. Any additions, deletions, corrections? Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cruz. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Under unfinished business, number 2, second reading ordinance 21-01, updating Article 6 of the franchise fees of Chapter 118 Utilities of the City Code. Terry?
Mr. Mayor, and I certainly defer to Mr. Parker or Ms. Jackson with the Finance Department, but I'll start by saying there's a substitute on the table only to this extent, that what was submitted last Thursday for the agenda, we continue to have ongoing conversations with general counsel and outside counsel of the Georgia Power, who made some excellent points about some of the language and the fact that they are regulated by the Public Service Commission of the state, unlike North Georgia EMC. Also, Mr. Tharp was sponsoring Tharp, who's in the audience, while his client he is told philosophically has never agreed, prefers not to see a franchise tax, made some helpful comments. And so we tried to get that language into the agreement where we thought it was appropriate. It was vetted with Mr. Parker and Ms. Jackson. In fact, it's up to the council with Mr. Palmer, with Troutman and Peppers, former Troutman and Sanders Departments here, and may have some comments, but my understanding is your company, Georgia Power, which is probably the biggest utility secondary supplier in the city, would not oppose this ordinance. Is that correct? At this point, no.
Any other questions of Terry? Your motion on this?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Cruz, there's a second. Second by Mr. Wall. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Under new business, number 3, resolution 21-04, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Dalton, Georgia, authorizing substantial amendment to the 2020 action plan and 2019 annual action plan under the community development block grant program. Cindy?
Yes, Mayor. This is just, as you know, we received the CARES Act, the CV3 297-268. So we just have to do a resolution to accept that round 3 funding from CDBG. And then we move $10,595.80 into the meals program to cover it as well. And then there was a $66 amendment from the state, from the HUD office. So this resolution just puts all that in a resolution form so you guys can adopt it and I can send it to HUD.
Question, Cindy? Is there a motion on this? Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cruz. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Number 4, Leonard Brothers Construction Change Order Number 1 for restroom facilities at Brookwood Park. Greg?
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is a request from the Parks and Recreation Department for a change order in the amount of $4,620 to complete the work. We've built a restroom at Brookwood Park, pickleball courts at Brookwood Park, and in doing so, we have about 50 foot of sidewalk that creates a low spot. This will actually level everything out, get it up to ADA standards, and it's something that I think will be a good fix now rather than coming back and trying to fix it later while they're out there and mobilized on site. I asked Mr. Parker to come out today and inspect it with myself, and I'll let Andrew speak for himself, but I think he agrees that it's a good price and a good project for us to approve with Mayor and Council's approval.
Has this been to the Rec Commission?
No, sir. I'm sorry. Oh, this is a change order. Everything, it's almost finished. The bathrooms are finished. I may have misunderstood your question. The change order hasn't been to the Rec Commission. We just got this Friday. We haven't.
Since they're already out there, we'll go ahead and take this up, but it would help if you just run this through the Rec Commission first also.
Okay.
Okay. There a motion on this? Motion by Mr. Wiles, there a second? Second by Ms. Harlan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Number 5 is professional service agreement with Lewis and Associates Land Surveying LLC for the City of Dalton Aquatic Center.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an agreement with Lewis and Associates to perform a full boundary survey on the 8.38 acre tract at the Dalton Mall campus, which will serve as the future home of the Aquatic Center. The survey will include establishing all the parcel boundaries, a full topography workup, and locating all of the private utility infrastructure on site that we'll be needing to access. The cost is $6,900, and it will be funded by the 2021 bond issue. Work is scheduled to be completed in 4 weeks or less.
Question of Andrew? Your motion on this? Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second? Second by Mr. Wall. All in favor, say aye. All
Aye.
opposed, like sign. Number 6, professional service agreement with Hydro Engineers, Inc. for the City of Dalton Aquatic Center.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding the same site, the 8.38 acres, we are needing to move forward with a geotechnical evaluation of the site. Hydro is somebody that we work with on a frequent basis. This information gathered from their report will help us guide the decision-making process on the building footprint, where exactly the building's going to go, as well as guide the design of the foundation system. Their scope of work includes drilling 15 test borings at a depth between 20 and 30 feet. This will also tell us where the groundwater table is in reference to where the building foundation will be. And all those soil samples will be taken back to the lab for further review. Cost of the base proposal is $8,850. There are a couple of seismic analysis optional awards that we're not ready to pursue at this time. That may not be required until we do the borings, but I wanted to go ahead and mention that since it is in the scope. This project will also be funded by the 2021 bond issue, and work will be completed in 4 weeks or less.
Question of Andrew? Your motion on this? Motion by Mr. Wiles, or second? Second by Ms. Harlan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Number 7, professional service agreement with Ksi Structural Engineers, LLC for the city-owned parking deck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For several months now at the Public Works Committee, we've been discussing the best management practice of trying to have all of our structural owned assets that the city has inspected on a 2-year cycle, like we do our bridges now. And so what we need to add to that asset management program is the city-owned parking deck at the intersection of Crawford Street and Hamilton Street. There was a significant overhaul of that deck completed in 2011. under a former SPLOST project. But we would like to get that deck, especially with more use at Burr Park now on a 2-year inspection cycle, so that we can identify any deficiencies early and get those corrected. So for your consideration tonight is an agreement with Ksi Structural Engineers. This firm has experience inspecting a lot of privately owned decks, including the deck at the Georgia Tech campus. The cost of this survey is $2,200, and this is only to perform a due diligence report. So if we get into the inspection, determine any deficiencies or repairs that need to take place, that will be a separate proposal. Hopefully there are none, but we want to get this on a regular inspection cycle. The work is to be completed within 5 weeks.
Questions, Andrew? Your motion on this?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cruz. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Number 8, professional service agreement with Goodwin Mills K Wood for civil design services for Market Street.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After many months of planning and input from stakeholder groups, the city's in a position to move forward with phase 1 of the corridor improvements plan. This first phase of the project is to enhance Market Street from Walnut Avenue to the outlet center with a streetscape type look and feel, wide sidewalks, on-street parking, decorative benches and lighting, taking all the utilities from overhead position underground. Page 83 of your agenda packet identifies the footprint of this first phase, which is, as I said earlier, Market Street, but it also includes what we're calling a business access street at the rear of the Panda Express, KFC, and Chick-fil-A tracks to bring better interparcel connectivity, which we feel like will have a positive improvement to traffic flow on Walnut Avenue, as well as beginning the future, what we call the Dugout Road Connector. So this phase will include going from Market Street to the breezeway at the outlet center, which is where phase 2 will pick up at a future date. As you can imagine, a project of this scope and magnitude requires a detailed set of plans to let to construction. A private contractor will be constructing this project. And so this agreement with GMC would be to perform a full-scale civil design on the phase 1 elements that we talked about tonight at a total cost of $314,240. This will be funded by the 2021 bond issue. And it's important to note that this scope also includes some initial environmentally sensitive area delineation, wetland, stream delineation on phase 2 of the project. Since we know we're going to be pursuing that, we want to go ahead and do delineation now so that we have all the answers to those questions. The design is scheduled to be substantially complete by the end of July with a final completion date of no later than August. We are having some discussions that we could let a package early to take the overhead utilities underground. That's part of their design scope of work. So very possibly as early as late May or early June, we could start working on the utilities, and then at the end of July or early August, let the construction package for this first phase. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions, Andrew? Your motion on this? Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cruz. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Under supplemental business, I think Ms. Harlan, who's our representative to the Downtown Development Authority, would like to introduce the new director.
Yes, and I want to mention that George Woodward, the current executive director of the Downtown Development Authority, is with us tonight on Zoom. So there's always a delay, so maybe George can wave. And there'll be there it is. There's always like a couple of second delay. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce Candace Eaton, who's here with us in person, and Audrey Batts, who is the other part of the very important team. And what I'd like to encourage people to do is to reach out and get to know Candace and to understand that they're going to work together as a very engaged team. And that's been the biggest charge from the board to them, is to please be engaged. And they're obviously, going to have no problem, I think, exceeding our expectations as a board. To share with you a few details about Candace, she's a Whitfield County native, a graduate of Southeast Whitfield High School and Covenant College, where she earned a degree in management. She most recently was with Hamilton Healthcare System for 7 years, focusing in compliance and working with the legal department. And prior to that, served about a decade in working in the banking and financial industry. So Candace really brings organizational skills, compliance, and to bring finance together. I don't know how you have a better combination. She and her husband, Sam, who happens to be a 22-year employee of the city of Dalton, have 4 children. And we're very glad that you are here, but I very intentionally introduced them together and reintroduce Audrey Batts, that they're the right team and they're the right fit to really take downtown forward and to carry what George Woodward has done an awesome job of stepping in as an interim director. And so we couldn't be more fortunate to have these 2 young ladies and to have had George is finishing out his term the end of this month. So, but we will be able to find you, George. Don't worry about that. So please get to know them. And I would also like to mention as an announcement that this weekend is Spring Open House from 10 in the morning till 6 in the evening on Friday and Saturday in downtown. So please get out and show your support of our downtown businesses. And I think we can all shop responsibly and wear masks and properly social distance. But let's get out and support our independent businesses. I don't have anything else.
If there be no other business before this board, I entertain a motion, we adjourn.
Move.
Adjourn.